Today's talk will be centered around the topic of transforming intentions into action. And the quote that goes with that is from the Upanishads. You are what your deep driving desire is. As your desire is, so your will. As your will is, so is your deed. And as your deed is, so is your destiny. I was reading some of the articles that from Paramahansa Yogananda as he gave talks about the new year, and this is one that touched me. Dear Spirit, help us to materialize all our worthy wishes in the new year. We will reason, we will, we will act, but guide thou our reason, will, and activity to the right thing that we should do in everything. So over the course of these many years of living in this in the Sunburst group and community, I've had the pleasure and the pleasure of working with a group of us to accomplish our goals. And our founder, Norman Paulson, had many inner visions before the community was materialized. He spent 5 years in a monastery with Paramahansa Yogananda. And through many of his deep meditations, he was given these beautiful visions of people living in the country, and he actually saw the young people that would in time be with him to help create Sunburst. So the Norm was always, he was talking about seeding the field of power. And I thought of that when Jesus was giving that parable about the sower casting seeds. Some fell, on dry ground, some fell on rocks, and some fell where the conditions were just right. So those seeds are like our intention, and we have thoughts about or making the world a better place, giving strength and guidance to somebody, those thoughts that are worthy to put into action. But sometimes it takes a while before our ideas can actually be implemented through action. And such was the process of forming Sunburst, because this was in the late 1940s, and Norm was having these beautiful visions, and he knew that in his life he would that this would come to pass, but it took 20 years, and he lived in the world. He lived with people that, for the most part, were very interested in what he had to say about inner realization and Kriya Yoga practice, yoga. So in the 1960s, he was having a lot of visions about how this community would take shape, what would be the driving forces which would create a sustainable, self-sustaining community. And it was at this time that he had a vision where he was taken into an immense room, and there was a long table, and all these illumined souls, everything was in light, were sitting at this table, and at the head of the table was Jesus, and Jesus broke he had these loaves of bread, and he started breaking pieces, and he was passing the pieces around, and when Norm got the piece, he looked at Jesus, and Jesus was saying, "Feed the people, feed the people." So that statement was the underlying, I feel, the underlying encapsulations of what a spiritual community must do. Feeding the people is like, it's obviously, eating good food and growing our own food, but it's also providing inspiration and mental upliftment by example. And it's also by feeding people by giving them meditation tools and that they can find on their own the source of joy and wisdom inside of them. Norm was a very humble brother. He had these wonderful experiences and visions, but he always wanted to encourage us to have our own visions and and experiences. Such was Jesus. He said that I'm going on, but you're going to do greater things than I am. So he was always, that's the good example of being in a community. Each person is a servant of the other. You can read about some of Norm's experiences and how he got the direction and how he did the various actions to start Sunburst. He was in his meditations at Mount Washington, and he found himself in a ship, you can say a UFO, or above Mount Washington, and there were these people inside, and they were he recognized them. They were familiar, and they were sitting around in a circle, and there were portholes around the sides, and all of a sudden they moved up towards the mountains of Santa Barbara, and he was looking down, and he saw a group of young people waving at him in front of an old ranch house. And you got to remember, this was in 1940, probably 48 or 49, and a little over 20 years later, that would actually be visualized and manifested. When we had the community had Tahigas Ranch down the coast here, Norm was writing his autobiography, and at the time he encouraged each person there to write their own autobiography, how they came to Sunburst, what were the what was the deep driving desire, what were some of the experiences. And about 90% of the people every night, I think it was about every night during the week, someone would read their autobiography. And just about every autobiography talked about reading Yogananda's autobiography of a yogi. For some reason, that was one of the driving forces that brought young people to Norm. And it was one of the driving forces that brought Norm to Yogananda. So it's so important that when we do write down our experiences, that we realize that what we write down is going to inspire people in the future to start to come together and start a spiritual community. Norm said it in time and space, a community that lives simply and is self-sufficient. That's the only, and lives spiritually in terms of their practices and living in virtue. That's the only thing that's sustainable in time and space. That civilizations come and go, but our hearts, when our hearts are together and working together, we can keep the dreams of our teachers going. My own spiritual journey began many years ago, as when I was very little. I was sleeping one night. My brother and I shared a bunk bed. He was on the bottom and I was on the top. And there was a window about 10 feet away that looked, I believe it looked to the south. And it was a clear night, clear starry night, very calm. And it must have been about 2 a.m. It was like this light filled the room. It was just like a blast of light. First, I jumped down. I thought it was lightning or something, but it was within me and it was without me. So I felt this light, strong presence. And years went by. I had a dream. Probably it was in high school. I had a dream that I was on this island. It was like there were palm trees and all of a sudden I looked up in the sky and there was this huge. It was like a huge comet or asteroid coming down, and it hit the earth and everything shook and I woke up and I didn't know what that was. And then I noticed that the moon was huge. It was a huge moon. And I think this is probably a vision of some previous life or something. And then when I read some of Norm's experiences where he was taken back in time with at the ancient continent Lemuria, bells rang inside because I realized that that was probably that I was experiencing that, and talking to many, they've also had those kind of experiences when they came to Sunburst. So each in the great body of humanity, there are kindred souls which come together to perform specific work and action, and those souls are drawn to the teacher, which resonates with their desires, and so Sunburst is kind of one of many communities that have been set up that has been projected and goes on. So as we enter into our new year, the portals of our new year, let us go into our quiet period where we can sit upright and then gently close our eyes and breathe in the breath of life several times. Maybe we could do 3 ohms together before we begin. this process of creation from the intention being formulated as a plan to the action and to the manifestation of that projection. This process goes on continually in the minds of us upon this planet and in countless worlds. And it was started in motion by the Great Ignition billions of years ago, when divine consciousness said, "Let there be light." And in that action came the manifestation of all of us, of all that we see, from the subatomic particles to the great spiral galaxies which number beyond the grains of sand on a beach. So we are all part of the divine plan. And we've been given each a unique personality and creative abilities to help bring to fulfillment and be in tune with the divine consciousness as it moves through us. Let us imagine this new year as a portal through which we can grow into our pure selves and let that light come out into the world. I'd like to read a quote from Yogananda. It's called "Controlling Your Destiny." The year was 1938 when Paramahansa gave this talk. 87 New Years have passed since this talk was given. But like stone, it still resonates and will resonate long into the future. With the beginning of the new year, let us, with concentrated resolve and spiritual determination, enter into a new era of our lives. And he says, please pray with me. We are entering a better life, O Father, through the portals of the new year. May it be a year of greatest communion with thee, the giver of gifts. Be thou the only king sitting on the throne of all our desires, directing our lives through our intelligence. In the past year, desires often led us astray. Bless us that henceforth all our aspirations be in consonance and harmony with thy will. Bless us that every day be a new awakening in thy consciousness, physically, mentally, morally, and spiritually. We thank thee, O Father, and the great ones who are all blessing us and coaxing us to thy kingdom. This is my New Year's wish for you, that you all reach the land beyond your dreams, where there is peace and joy eternal. May you realize the fulfillment of whatever strong wish you release in the ethers. Amen.
Let thy whisper in the temple of silence guide me to the right path. Let thy whisper in the temple of silence guide me to the right path that leads to thee, 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 that leads to thee. Let thy whisper in the temple of silence guide me to the right path. Let thy whisper in the temple of silence guide me to the right path that leads to thee, 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 that leads to thee. Let thy whisper in the temple of silence guide me to the right path. Let thy whisper in the temple of silence guide me to the right path that leads to thee, 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 that leads to thee. Let thy whisper in the temple of silence guide me to the right path. Let thy whisper in the temple of silence guide me to the right path that leads to thee, 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 that leads to thee. Let thy whisper in the temple of silence guide me to the right